Hello, everybody on Facebook. It's Scott Sandland here, talking to you guys about HypnoThoughts Live, which is coming up in 2 weeks or less now, which is awesome. I know a lot of you guys are going. I know a lot of you guys are excited. One of the things that I'm really excited about this year is some changes we've made to the shows. We've been really fortunate in the past to have some really fun shows. This year, we're doing something that was a dream of ours at the beginning, which was to get one of the actual Vegas hypnotists, one of the guys who does his show every night for tourists from all over the world, to come in and do a show for us, and even better, come in and lecture about how they do that. This is something that we've been talking about, Richard and I have been talking about since before the conference even happened, as one of the reasons Vegas makes so much sense. When you think about hypnosis, Vegas is an obvious choice. And so I'm saying all of that as a way to introduce one of our presenters this year, one of our entertainers this year, and just a great guy and a great hypnotist. Kevin, how are you? And thanks for doing this interview with me.
Doing great, Scott. Thanks for having me.
So I already just kind of rambled a little bit, but you've been in Vegas for how long now?
I've been here. I moved to Vegas 6 years ago,
Okay.
and
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, we just had to turn up the volume. You've been in Vegas for 6 years.
yeah, sorry, it did that weird echo thing, that weird radio thing for a minute. I used to, which is sorry about that.
No, you're
So
fine.
yeah, I moved to Vegas 6 years ago, and I moved here from Detroit. I had the opportunity to do corporate events for about 6 months.
Right.
And 6 months has turned into 6 years. And in that time, of course, I became a part of Hypnosis Unleashed before taking over and having Hypnosis Unleashed as my own for the last few years.
So you're at Binion's now.
Yes.
I haven't seen your show since you moved there. How different is your show, or is it the same show that I saw, a number of years ago?
Well, the core of the show is the same, but there's always different nuances when you're in a new room. Things that will work in one room won't necessarily work in another. The staging of one room won't necessarily lend itself to certain things, but it'll open up other opportunities. Environment really does add a level to your show that you have to really work with and around.
See, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was sort of my question. Because what does work in one room, and to be oversimplified, what works at the county fair might not work at a fraternity, might not work at a corporate event, might not work on the strip, right?
Exactly. Audiences will have different levels of expectations based on where they're going, expectations about what they feel that they're supposed to see, what they want to see. And the show that I do at Binion's every night is the core, once again, is the same when I go to a corporate event. But the style is completely different because it has to be. And certain things have to be catered to certain audiences. You can't just serve a Big Mac everywhere and expect it to get the same reaction, just like you can't serve filet mignon to every person and have them all react favorably. You have to know what your audience wants specifically.
So I know that's something that you're going to be talking about on Sunday when you break down your Saturday show, and I want to talk about that in a minute. But before we do, even just the mindset of that, how do you get feedback about what you're doing? Is it just applause and laughter? Is it having friends sit in the show? What is it that you do to keep getting better? Because I know you're the kind of guy who's not going to get stagnant. You're going to want to grow. What are the mechanisms for a high level stage hypnotist to even do that?
Well, first, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning here. And this is the beginning of me performing, whether it was doing hypnosis shows, whether it was being a ghost tour guide in New Orleans, anytime that I was in front of a group of people and performing. First thing you want to do, you want to find out who do you feel is the best at what you want to be doing. And then you don't emulate that person, you don't steal from that person, you don't try and be that person, but you look at that person and go, what is it about what they're doing that's inspiring me? Then I worked with a lot of different writers. Actually, one of your other presenters, William Arundel, who is doing some different stuff on, I believe, addiction.
Yeah.
Who is just an amazing person in that world.
You introduced me to him.
My best friend since high school.
Yeah, you introduced me to him a couple years ago, and he is great. He's just a wonderful guy and really, really smart.
Amazing person, amazing personality. He was actually one of my writers. And when I say one of my writers, I don't want you to think of a writing session as we're formally sitting down at a table doing table reads. No, I mean me, him, and two or three other people that I knew were funny stand-up comics I worked with would sit around all night at a diner. And I'll still do this, and we will spend an hour talking about one sentence. And is it funnier with the word and? Is it funnier with a pause? Is it funnier here? And then as I've gone through the ranks, one of my biggest skills is I'm smart enough to know when there are things that I do not know.
Right.
And I've been very fortunate to work alongside amazing people. When you look at the hypnosis side of things, just the fact that Michael Johnson, Terry Stokes took me under their wings and guided me through that. Michael, who does not get the credit for being the brilliant stand-up he is, helping my comedy along. Different people here in Vegas, I credit the amazing Jonathan a lot. Jonathan is a very, very good friend of mine, and he has helped me so much with timing, with jokes, with going, I know where you're going here. Have you thought about this? But there's always people in whatever area you're at. There's open mic nights. There's comedy open mic nights. There's different performers. There's always a chance to get together with 3 or 4 people that you like. Sit down and really write and hone that.
So what I love about what you're saying is it sort of leads towards, it's not directly, but it really leads towards the idea of cross-training, right? You want to be a great stage hypnotist. That means you can't just be a stage hypnotist. You need to pay attention to comedy. You need to pay attention to stand-up. You need to be well-versed and be learning from all these different sources. And that mentality is such an important part of HypnoThoughts and HypnoThoughts Live, is the idea of you should and can learn from everybody.
Oh, yeah. There were a couple of times in my teenage years where I had that teenage attitude of I know it all.
Sure.
And then I met a couple of bus drivers. And by that I mean people who took me to school and back very quickly. And it was people who went, oh, you think you know what you're doing? And all of a sudden they would show me something that was just light years ahead of what I was doing. And to their credit, instead of going, oh, just do this, they didn't tell me what the answer was, but they showed me where I could find the path to find the answer. And that took out a lot of the youthful arrogance.
Yeah.
That helped and allowed me to go, okay, I'm always going to learn.
Yeah, I have a very similar, backstory with, obviously I'm more clinically oriented, but I remember telling my instructor, I'm so excited, I'm so proud of myself. I've been working on my induction since the last time we met, and I've got my induction down to 5 minutes. That's so fast. And, she sort of laughed at me and said, okay, I guess we need to start working on rapid induction so you know what the hell you're talking about. And just having those moments of, finding out you don't know what you don't know. I've been having conversations about that in the clinical perspective. So hearing someone talk about it on the entertainment side is awesome.
And it's funny. I remember something my dad told me, and that's that when you only have the knowledge of a mustard seed, you can only see the circumference of the mustard seed. That's all you know you don't know. But then when you get a little bit smart, you have the knowledge of a ball. All you can see is the circumference around the ball. When you're on a huge island, you can still only see the surface of the circumference of the island, but now you just realize how much bigger everything is.
Right.
And you start to pull from this pool and that pool, and that's how you grow. It's funny. There's no real huge secret in what we do, but there is the opportunity to learn and grow it from every angle.
I've heard someone say creativity isn't a black hole you just reach into and pull stuff out of. And creative people don't just have, a magic hat they reach into. Creativity is about getting more Legos and being able to assemble them in different ways. And the more things you know, the better the Lego parts you have.
Nobody starts running a full marathon.
Exactly.
Or at least very, very few.
Yeah.
You have to build up to it. It's just like anything else. There's a training to it. I write more comedy the more comedy I do. I write more moments the more that I can explore a moment and the more that I have the freedom. One of the great things about doing a lot of shows is every week something's going to happen on stage that makes me laugh. And then the question becomes, did this make me laugh tonight because it only worked for tonight? Or is this something that can make me laugh tomorrow?
So that was actually something I was just about to ask you about. So let's just jump into it. So there's a lot of spontaneity that has to happen, and there's a real balance in stage shows. I've seen I've seen your show, back before you moved, and I've seen a number of stage hypnotists, and I've seen their show a couple times. And there are parts of it that are obviously scripted, of course, and then there are parts that you just have to be in the moment and improvise with what the volunteers give you. How do you balance trying to repeat something that worked last night with realizing that you might be forcing it? How experimental and willing to screw up are you when you're on a big stage like you are?
Well, okay, let's talk about improv for just a minute here. I have a loathing with performers who go, oh, I just improv my show. Well, then in that case, I'm just going to improv your paycheck. With the show that I do, it has to achieve certain goals. No matter what, every night it has to achieve the goals and expectations that people have. It has to be funny. The jokes have to work. The stuff I do on my show has to get that strong laughter. But, and the only way you can get that is through really, really strong scripting. And the great thing about strong scripting is once you have your show down, once you know what you're going to do, a big problem with people who tend to wing it too much is they will have a brilliantly funny moment happen. Just a moment that is hilarious, that is just perfect. They don't know where to go from there.
Sure.
They get to the top of the mountain, and then they fall off. When you have a strong script, a strong outline for your show, when you have that really great moment where you can improv, where you can play, once you hit the top of that peak, now you know where to go next instead of falling off. So for me, when something funny happens, I can explore that moment, and then I can lead that moment into something that I know is going to work next. And then the next night, I can try that moment out again, knowing full well that if it doesn't work, then I still have this really funny thing coming up right after it to make up for that.
So you've created a structure where you can be experimental and know you're going to give the crowd their money's worth.
Yes, and I also know my rule. For example, one of my rules is doing my show. I can be mischievous. I can never be malicious.
Sure.
Me being the person I am, I can be your little brother. I can be the fun uncle. But I can't do something to stick it to a person. That doesn't work for me. I know the rules of my character on stage. I know the rules of my persona, so I know what I can and can't do.
So someone else might be able to get away with some things that you wouldn't even try, yes. And that's okay.
Definitely. Anthony, Mark, and I have very different shows.
Absolutely.
There are things that Mark can get away with that I definitely can't. There's a lot of things that Anthony can get away with that I can't.
Sure.
And a lot of that also is, what is your own natural sense of humor?
Right.
When you're authentic to yourself, the audience knows it. When you're not authentic, when you're trying to do something that isn't your real personality, the audience knows when you're not being sincere, and you lose them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So,
but it's also like that with therapists. It's like that in a therapy setting. If your patient feels that you're BSing them, they're not listening to you anymore.
Yeah.
If they feel you're being insincere, then you're just like everybody else in the world, and they don't need to take your advice. But if they feel what you're saying is coming from the heart, then they're going to bond with you and they're going to work with you.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. So bringing this back to the conference, obviously you're doing the show on Saturday night, and that's going to be awesome. And you're shutting down your show at Binion's for the night to come over, right? Which is
Binion's has allowed me to go dark for the night.
That's I know what that means, and I appreciate it a lot. So thank you on behalf of the other people who are going to be coming to your show. But let's switch over to Sunday morning, right? So you're going to do a show Saturday. A lot of us are going to be there. We're all going to be watching. You know, some of us are going to be interested in stage stuff. Some, you know, as a career. Some of us are just coming for entertainment. Sunday morning, who is your class geared for?
It's geared for everyone, and I'll elaborate on that. So I am going to do the primary show that I do every night when I'm at Binion's, including the induction that I do at Binion's. Now, I'm going to be honest, with a HypnoThoughts crowd,
Right.
I could yell the word sleep and have 10 people go under because at that point you're conditioned to it and you kind of want to.
Yeah, it's primed, right? You got an easy room there.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the actual show, and I'm going to do the induction that I do night after night that works 300 times a year, whether I have a crowd of 24 or a crowd of 99, or whether I'm doing a corporate event for 400 or a comedy club of 600.
Right.
And the reason that I'm doing that is so the next day, we're going to go over everything. And we're going to go over it with a comb, going over, why did I make these choices? When I walk out on stage, what is the first thing I say? Why do I say that? What does that mean for the rest of the show? How am I cueing audience members to react the way that I want them to react? How am I convincing people that volunteering for my show is a good idea? How do I get those people to go, yes, I want to volunteer. I want to be part of what Kevin's doing. How do I get them under? Why does it work every night? What moments in the hypnosis, how did I write these moments? Why did I write these moments? Why does this work every night? Where did this joke come from? How did I take this and create a moment into it? And how did it all evolve? And how do I do it when I'm on the road? How is that marketable? Why is that marketable? And let's say you're never going to do a show. Let's say you're only interested in doing it clinically. How can I get up in front of a Lions Club, or how can I get up in front of the local Chamber of Commerce and do a presentation to build my business?
Yeah.
And that's what Sunday's going to be.
You know, it's, you know, people like myself, people like Will, right? You know, William or me or a bunch of the other attendees, you know, I don't ever want to do a stage show. I've trained in stage hypnosis. I did some of it when I was just getting started, just kind of for fun, but I have zero ambitions and aspirations to be a professional stage hypnotist because I enjoy the clinical side of it more. And I'm really fortunate that I got pushed to do some stage stuff early, just because the confidence it gives me in hypnotic phenomena and the ability to stand in front of a group and demonstrate and know what will and won't work in those setups. So is any of your talk going to be, and you were kind of talking about it, but I just want to confirm it, how much, if any, of your talk on Sunday morning will help somebody who doesn't want to do stage have that confidence and have plans about what they can do strategically in a presentation?
One of my goals is that for that person, is that they'd be able to walk out of that with at least an outline idea of how they could put together or structure 10 minutes in front of a group of people to talk about hypnosis and to be able to present what they do in a way that can get them leads.
Okay. And you also mentioned, you were talking about taking the show on the road and all that a minute ago. Are you going to be talking at all about the business side of things, or are you really sticking with technique and structure?
In this case, there's going to be a little bit of talk on the business side of it.
Okay.
For example, why would I do this at a corporate gig? Why wouldn't I do that at a corporate gig? Why does this one routine that I do get me repeat bookings? What is it about this moment that has helped me book shows? In that respect, yes. But in this case, and when I'm going through my show, it's not to go, here, use my material. Don't use my material. But it's to go, here is how this material was written and generated. Here is why I make this choice. Now, because I make certain choices, there are people who are going to disagree with me. Good. Disagree with me. But know why you're disagreeing with me.
So while you're talking about that, know why you disagree with me.
Mm-hmm.
How much experience and training, as maybe the same thing and maybe two separate things, I'll let you decide, but how much training and experience does a stage hypnotist need to have, in your opinion, before they're really ready to perform and get really good gigs? And how do they get that good?
So, I definitely didn't charge what I charge now for my first show.
Sure.
If I had charged that, I would have never gotten a second show.
Right.
Because I couldn't have exceeded my audience's expectations. One of the things that I teach people is how to go and do fundraisers for your first 10 shows. Because the expectations are a little bit lower.
Okay.
And nobody is cutting you a large check and judging you on your ability versus what they're paying.
Right.
And I mean, even if no matter what you charge, it sounds like a lot for an hour. And there's definitely more than an hour that goes into it.
Of course.
But can you hold that hour? And your first few shows, you don't really know what an hour feels like. You don't know what 45 minutes feels like. It's tough. But once you get those shows under your belt, you get a little bit more confidence, and the best thing you can do is then you sit down with a few of your friends and you really watch the video. And you go, ooh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. And then once you've done 10 or 20 shows, once you're starting to get bookings, and once you're going up in price level, then is when you get two cameras, one that records you and one that records the audience. And you start paying attention. In the course of 4 shows, where do I lose the audience's attention?
Right.
Why do I lose their attention? Because when you're doing high-end corporate gigs, when you're doing high-end theater gigs, you have to keep their attention from beginning to end.
Yep.
You know, Les Mis doesn't have moments where everybody gets up and goes to the bathroom and starts talking to each other. Neither do high-end comics. You want to be at that point where every moment of your show is achieving a goal. You don't want wasted moments up there. One of my least favorite things with most performers is we ask them how long they can do. Oh, well, I can do an hour. Okay, but how long can you do of a material?
Right.
Oh, well, I've got about 40 minutes of a material. Okay, well, then I'm giving you 20 because I know that's what you really have.
Sure.
But that's also, you know, a lot of hypnotists won't go to open mics. The open mics love having something that's different. Go up there and do 5 minutes talking about hypnosis. Do just one convincer in your 5-minute set. But try out 2 or 3 jokes. And the beauty of an open mic is you're not supposed to be good. And you get to go to these open mics and you get to try that line out at every open mic. You can probably find 10 open mics in your town. And the beauty about doing something that's variety or comedy based, music open mics are glad to have something that isn't a musician. Poetry open mics are glad to have something that isn't a poet. comedy open mics, we're glad to have something that has a visual aspect to it that is more than just stand-up comedy. There's a lot of places to go because you're a piece of metal that needs to be forged into a sword, and you're not forged without a lot of hammer strokes.
That's a really great insight. That to go get the repetitions we need, finding other avenues and being aggressive about looking for those opportunities just to go get in front of people. And that idea of, sure, the comic open mics, but music and poetry and other places, I would have never thought of that. That's great. Go ahead.
Anybody who is dumb enough to offer me 5 minutes of stage time, got it.
Sure. So Saturday, your show is going to be almost exactly what you do 300 times a year.
Yes. And the reason for that is so that I can explain the next day why it works every night. And I can also explain what changes I would make in different venues.
So to the people who are watching this video, who are coming to HypnoThoughts Live, if you've ever wanted to do any stage work, and maybe that's mentalism, maybe that's magic, maybe that's hypnosis, this seems like the most obvious opportunity for you to get in front of a person who performs at a very high level every night of the week and is competing with Cirque du Soleil every night of the week for butts and chairs, and is doing it, and has done it, and has won awards as a Vegas entertainer. To watch his show and then be able to raise your hand and ask him questions, you don't get a lot of opportunities like this, and you definitely don't get opportunities like that for free. You got to come to HypnoThoughts Live and do it. Kevin, I want to wrap it up here. Is there any last little piece that you want to share with the people who are going to be at the conference?
I'm excited to come and do it, and another reason I'm excited to come and do it is I was really fortunate in my career. A lot of people made themselves available for me to ask questions to. And if I hadn't had those opportunities to ask those questions, I wouldn't have been able to grow. So as much of anything else, it's a great chance for me to give back to people the way that people gave to me. And I'm excited to share it.
And that's what a lot of us are doing at the conference. And so we're glad to have people like you who are doing it from a different angle than I would do it. Kevin, thank you very much. I'll see you in person in a couple weeks, and we will have fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing your show again.
My pleasure. See you Saturday the 27th.
See you then.